We find out tomorrow or later midnight Washington time whether the tariffs will go ahead. They should go ahead for Canada. They should go ahead for the EU. What have you been hearing? Have you been speaking to your U.S. counterpart?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I would say the first thing is that any tariff would be unacceptable. We are seeking a permanent exemption. This is a whole of government. We believe that Canada's is in a very particular situation because if you look at the facts, in fact, the U.S. has a surplus when it comes to steel with Canada, about $2 billion a year. Canada is the largest buyer of U.S. steel. And when it comes to national security, let's look at the facts again. You know, we're partner in NATO, we're partner in NORAD. So for us, you know, a full exemption is what we're seeking. And it's what I think makes sense when you look at the integrated nature of our industry. The only realistic outcome is to have a full exemption for Canada.
Right, but Minister, what are you hearing from the U.S.? What did you tell them? At the same time, you know, they're saying that Canada is a potential security threat.
Well, I would say, first of all, any decision on one side of the border would have consequence on both sides. We know that the nature of our industry is integrated. When it comes to border, just look at the facts. You know, we invested about $30 million. We announced that last week to strengthen the integrity of our market, to add border agents, to make sure that there would be no transshipment, that there would be no diversion to Canada. We're doing that because we want to protect our border and the integrity of the Canadian market and North American market. So we are taking measures. I've said to our U.S. colleagues, Canada is not the problem. We're part of the solution. So we need to work together in that, and we're going to continue until the last minute to seek for a full exemption.
Minister, good morning from New York. I would like to suggest that really what I'd like you to do is to fix the Montreal Canadiens, but we won't go there right now. What I'd like to know, and this is with your experience...
Well, thank you for that. You know, we have to work longer on that.
We have to work longer on that as well. Minister, you took your law at Case Western Reserve in Cleveland, Ohio. You understand the border between Canada and U.S. Would you suggest that what has changed is a more mercantile United States of America? Is that really what this debate is about? Is a new mercantilism by President Trump?
Well, I would say, you know, the big goal should be that, for me, it's always been, and you're right, I was in Ohio recently. I was reminding people in Ohio that about 40% of everything that's produced in Ohio is going to Canada, and 50% of that 40% is intra-company trade. So for me, the big picture is how can we make North America more competitive? How can we build more in North America? And how can we sell from North America to the world? That is the big game. You know, we know that 9 million jobs in the U.S. depend on trade with Canada. We are the largest trading partner. We buy more from the Americans than China, Japan, and the UK combined. So it only makes sense to see how can we become more competitive together and then compete with the rest of the world. We need to outsmart the others, and it's by working together that we can achieve that.
Do you and Minister Friedland see any indication, being from Canada, it's a different view, do you see any indication that the United States can surgically apply tariffs on selected countries? They can go after Germany here, and China there, and Argentina in another matter. Does that theory work?
Well, I would say we believe in the rule-based system. You have to look at, Tom, what has worked for the world. We are here at the OECD. We believe in rule-based. We believe in an international trading system which is based on rules, because this has served the United States and the rest of the world for decades. Let's be clear. These institutions that we've built after the Second World War have lifted millions of people out of poverty. Canada is leading the way here in the OECD about reforming, modernizing for the 21st century, but also keeping the pillars of trade which have been working. And I think as long as everyone works within the international trading environment, in accordance with the rules that we have subscribed, that we have drafted together, I think we're all better off. And that's why we're saying, for Canada, we're seeking a full exemption. We think it only makes sense when you look at the integrated nature of our industry. But also, I think the message should be that let's work within the rule, let's modernize them. But when we all follow the rules, we all get a better outcome.
Minister, Canada also, wrote off or killed a Chinese takeover of ICON. A lot of other economies in the OECD have done the same. Has China as a subject actually been brought up at the OECD forum?
Well, I mean, there's always talks about different things. When you talk about ACOM, I mean, this was Canada, I said that, you know, we have a process in place for investment. National security is part of our process. The good thing with a rule-based system is that our rules are known, they're fairly applied, and they're very clear. So I think investors, what they're seeking, and that's what we're offering, certainty, predictability, and rule of law. That's what is driving investment, and I think we're going to continue on that path. Investors understood that we have our own rules in Canada, and when you follow them, you can invest, and we will always, obviously, protect our workers and our families and national security when it's the case.
Right, but how should Western economies deal with Chinese takeovers as a whole? Do you need to go at it as a bloc, or is it country by country?
I think you have to look at case by case. You know, our national securities law and our investment law are made for any investors. The decision we took in this case was based on analysis and data, and we want to continue with that. You know, our system is based on evidence, on rule-based decision making. I think it's for every country to look at their own investment laws. Like I say, the benefit of ours is they're very clear, they're fairly applied, and people respect that.
Right.
When it comes to the rest of the countries, I think there's ways for us to work together in order, for example, when we were talking today about technology, about artificial intelligence, I encourage people to work together because that's the best way. If we can outsmart the competition if we work together.
Well, can you outsmart the United States by working with Mexico? What's the back and forth between Mexico and Canada as they confront Trump economics?
Well, we've been working with all three parties. You know, Tom, this is a three-party agreement. We've been engaging. You know, Canada is always the one to be at the table, to be constructive, to be positive. We propose innovative rules with respect to the rules of origin when it comes to cars. We're always going to be at the table because we believe that a modernized NAFTA is a NAFTA that works for all three countries. And when you look at the integrated nature, you know, what makes us unique? You know, I'm here at the OECD, I'm here in Paris, but when you look at Canada and the United States and Mexico, is the integrated nature, is that our supply chain work together. So when you take decision, when you look at analysis, you have to take that into account. That's the message we're bringing to our U.S. friends.
Minister, did any EU officials or European ministers ask you what the best way to deal with President Trump and the Trump administration was, and what kind of advice did you give them?
Well, I think it's to engage. I always believe that the best way is to engage, to be positive, to look constructive. We understand there's different views, just like, you know, talking about the reform here of the system, making sure that we modernize it. We understand the voice of the United States. And I think it's for all of us to be constructive player in proposing alternatives, modernizing, having institutions for the 21st century. That's what Canada's bringing to the table, and we're trying to work with partners to address issues that have been raised, concerns that have been expressed, but at the same time preserving what's good, modernizing, and making sure it works for people in the 21st century.